Can you hear me, brother?
Got you, brother.
Mate,
There he is.
good to see you.
You too, man. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. How are you going?
Yeah, good, man. Good.
Mate, I
All
was
going
just
well.
I was just Googling you just for like some ideas of things to talk about. And it says you're
Yep.
worth $19 million now.
I
Mate, so
wish, man. I
the,
wish.
the Pro D2 and played for Fiji is pretty lucrative.
Oh, I don't know why more people don't do it.
Mate, so we're recording now, but it's just a chat. Just how, if you and I were at the pub or whatever, it'd just be how we're chatting now. How's life in France, mate?
It's good, man. It's really good. I've been really blessed to be a part of good teams and good clubs. I'm now for this season in Perpignan, which is south of France. It's right next to Spain. So
It's a
the
pretty good
weather's
spot.
always good. Really good spot, man. The weather's really good. You're able to go train, do your work, and then the beach. You're just surrounded by beaches, so it's like really good spot, man.
Mate, has COVID affected it?
Oh, COVID's affected it massively. Our scheduling obviously has had to be changed. Preparations during the week obviously has to be managed differently. This from now on till the end of the season, because we're heading into the playoffs. Simple things like having to get 3 COVID tests a week before our days even start. So obviously that's different. So yeah, a lot of the dynamics have had to change.
Can you go out and about, or are they telling you guys to pretty much stay on lockdown and just sort of get through to the final and all that sort of stuff?
Yeah, we're able to sort of go out and stuff, but for a few months now, only essential stuff has been open. So your supermarkets, your pharmacies and stuff. So you're able to go out, but you can't go out without masks. We honestly don't remember when we were able to go out without a mask.
Yeah.
So and we still have curfews and stuff. So yeah.
So curfews. So they tell you. So in Perpignan, you got to be home by a certain hour. Is that right?
So throughout France, our curfew at the moment is at 7 p.m. So everything's closed by 7. Everyone needs to be home by 7. Yeah, and I think everything opens up by the next morning.
Okay, so that's pretty much
by 7.
That's pretty much crippled the restaurant industry then, by the sounds of things.
Yeah, 100%. And I think for the first time in, if I'm not mistaken, since last summer, we're opening up again tomorrow.
Okay.
But then apparently curfews are going to be extended till 9 or 11 p.m.
Okay, so it's slowly starting to get back to a bit of normality. Are they having people at your games yet?
Sorry?
Are they having people at your games yet?
Nah, so no one's been able to come. I think by next week during the semi-finals, they're allowing 1,000 people to attend.
Okay.
Which is obviously better than nothing, and would love to have spectators at the games and stuff. But yeah, we've played with empty stadiums, and I think by next week there'll be 1,000 people able to attend.
So because Perpignan's a pretty big club, so what's the capacity there? I assume they get pretty good crowds usually.
Yeah, I'm guessing here, but I think the stadium here in Perpignan could hold maybe 15 to 20,000.
Yeah. Okay. So 1,000 or no people is quite noticeable different. What about French? Have you learned the language yet, or are you one of those guys like Kane Doug who's can say merci and that's about it?
Oh, bro, I'm still struggling, but I've gotten a lot better. All the rugby terms and stuff I'm able to get around with, and over the years, simple things like ordering something over the phone, or even going to a restaurant and being able to communicate and order something for yourself, I've gotten a lot better at, and I'm real comfortable with. Yeah, I think it's just the thing that's helped me is, let's say one of the boys has a barbecue, or we go out as a club. just sitting around the French boys and trying to communicate with them.
Yeah.
And they're really good in the aspect of if you make a mistake, they're like, oh no, you say it like this.
Okay.
You say it like this.
So they're helpful. They're helpful. So that sort of stereotype of the French shitting on people who speak the language the wrong way is not really your experience?
Bro, that's very realistic, actually, especially in Paris, out in the public.
Yeah.
If you can't communicate in the right way, they just get fed up with you.
Yeah, right.
But within the clubs itself, within the rugby clubs, they're real helpful, man. They're empathetic in that way. They'll help you. You know, especially if you try to speak it, they have the time and the space to help you.
Okay, so probably more because you're mates and all that sort of stuff. What about the coaches? Do they speak French only, or do they do a bit of English as well?
Here in Perpignan, our head coach, who is French, he speaks English really well, so he does both.
Okay.
There's a lot of clubs they just speak French.
Yeah.
Back at racing, they did both as well, but most of it's in French.
Well, what was it like being at a club like Racing? Because that's one of the big, you kind of being in Australia, you look at Racing Metro and go, fuck, that's a big club. Yeah. Was that a good experience?
Yeah, it was a massive experience and such a good experience. I mean, it's by far the fanciest club I've ever been to. And I think you can sort of get that vibe if you're watching in from the outside. I mean, you see the players that go through that club, the results that they're able to get because of the players that they have. But also, something I've got to say about racing is that it's just full of good people. And I think that's why it's successful as well. Like you see clubs that buy the best players, but still don't get the results that they're looking for.
Yeah.
So it's testament to the culture that they have. But I mean, mixing around with and playing with guys that I grew up watching, like Joe Rokithoko,
so he was there. He was there when you were there.
Yeah, he was. That was while I was there. He was finishing off. It was one of his last seasons.
That's crazy.
And then now with the current crop of players, you're speaking about boys like Finn Russell and Teddy Toma, Vakatawa and stuff. So, I mean, if you're not playing and you just mingle around these boys, you're learning a heap about the game and just watching how they're just normal people away from the game as well.
Mate, when you said fancy, like it's one of the fanciest clubs you've ever been to, what do you mean? Is it like behind the scenes?
Yeah, so I'm a really simple dude, and you know this about me. So for example, I get to the club, the car's already waiting there, and all the boys, because they're sponsored by Toyota. And for me, I was like, oh, so there's a car. They organize your accommodation, and it's so professional. Lunch is provided. You rock up to training every day. Simple things like your washing's done, folded in front of your locker, ready to go for that day. So for me, I'm just like, oh, this is unbelievable.
So it's legitimately a professional club.
Yeah, very professional, man. In everything that they do, they strive to even get better than that every year, which is amazing. And I mean, it's just testament to the results that they get every year as well.
Mate, have you ever watched those All or Nothing documentaries where they go behind the NFL and like some soccer clubs? Did you ever see those? And you look at them and go, that's like legit professional sport. And compared to like, I've only had a couple of professional rugby experiences, but they weren't like that. And that kind of sounds like what you had at racing.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. It's like that, yeah.
So let's go back to when you left Sydney. How did you end up getting a start in professional rugby?
So I was playing at Southern Districts, and then I think it would have been the year we made the final that year. First grade, we played uni, and I got a call from Michael Check, and he said that he had one more spot in the professional team, and there were three guys that he's been watching that he wanted to sort of trial out during the off season. I was lucky enough to get that spot, and then it all started from there. I spent 3 years with the Tars, and then after the 3 years in 2015, at the end of 2015, I was in talks with John McKee, who was coaching the Fiji national side at the time, and also with Tabai Matson, who was at the Crusaders at the time.
Okay.
And that's how it all worked out. And when I first left Sydney. So,
talk about your Tars experience. What ended up happening there? Did you play many games?
I've actually I played a few in my rookie year.
Yeah.
And then the last 2 years, I didn't see a minute of Super Rugby. And I mean, although at the time it was draining and really disappointing, as a young guy, not really understanding why I didn't make the team, but also it was a time where I needed to grow as well and needed to hold space for not just myself but my teammates as well. I couldn't be selfish if I wanted the team to succeed, and I think that's when personal development for myself started to begin. And instead of really just having a negative attitude and not putting in 100% at training, I was determined to help the boys who were playing to become better, but also to be prepped for the games each week. And I think it was a testament to all the boys, like a lot of boys during the 2 years I wasn't playing, they were all fellow teammates who were right next to me who weren't playing that much that year, those years either. But yet they put their heads down and would prep the team really well. And I think it was testament to when the boys were able to go forward and win the championship, the Super Rugby title against the Satyrs that year.
Were you were in the squad that year?
Yeah, I was in the squad that year. Yeah.
What was that experience like? Being a part of that?
It was unreal. It was unreal. And I think honestly, something that helped too was being able to go back to club footy and to join you boys at South. And we were successful that year as well. And having that positive energy coming out from my club team and then going to the Tars really helped me in a lot of ways. But our team we were stacked that year. We had Izzy playing really well. We had Robbie, who was killing it that year. Foley, KB, like you saw the back line, and then you looked to the pack that we had. It was just so dominant that year, and it was so cool to be a part of that squad, and I think I learned a lot. I learned a lot more in the 2 years than in the year that I was playing regularly.
Okay, that's a good way to look at it. Talk me through walking into the Crusaders for the first time.
That was an amazing experience. Growing up in Fiji, here's a team that I watched, religiously. And my favorite childhood player was Dan Carter. So I would watch him and just have my eyes on him the games that he played that I watched. And then first even speaking to them and hearing that they were keen for me to jump on board was
how did that come about?
Unbelievable.
How did that come about, by the way?
So when I spoke to Tabai Matson, he was saying that they had remembered me from my rookie year, and the last trial match that we played was against the Crusaders over in Sydney. And they said that they had remembered me from that trial and just sort of kept their eyes on me over the 3 years. And then when they had found out that I was no longer at the Tars, they came knocking on the door and just wanted to see if I was keen to head over.
That's amazing. That's
amazing. Unreal.
Right. There's probably getting an insider's perspective, there's a reason they've been one of the most successful rugby teams ever. You know, when you hear stuff like that. What about, was DC there when you were there?
No, he wasn't there. He had left.
But Richie McCaw, Kieran Reid, all those guys were still playing?
Richie had retired.
Yeah.
So he wasn't there when I was there. But, Kieran was there. Obviously, Sammy Whitelock's still playing.
was like
Toddy was still there.
Yeah.
Crotty was there. Yeah, so a lot of the boys were still there.
Mate, what about the footy difference? Can you recall, like, coming from the TARS program, like your only professional rugby experience, and then noticing any differences with the Crusaders in terms of the rugby side of things?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that stuck with me, and I don't think I'll ever forget it for as long as I play rugby, is they teach us to fail on the field. So, for example, there were two scenarios, pretty identical, that I experienced on the training field. And one of the times it was a 15-on-15 drill. I was on the edge and there was a 2-on-1, and I sort of tried to quickly flick it to the winger, but it sort of went behind him, rolled out. And then a few minutes later, the drill continued, and almost the identical situation had arose again. But remembering what I just did, I sort of dummied and went. And after training, the coach came up to me, who was Blackadder at the time, and he was just telling me, if there's a 2-on-1, if there's an opportunity, I don't care how you get it to the winger. If you throw it behind your head, between your legs, just as long as you try to get it there, I'm happy with that. And if you make a mistake, and if the situation arises again, if there's an opportunity, I want you to take it. So with me, the mentality of pushing the boundaries changed. I felt like I came from a system where not to take too many risks, just to hold the ball and build another phase, and an opportunity will arise then, rather than, if the opportunity is there now, take it and do whatever you can to take it.
That's very Australian rugby, the safe.
The next phase, build the next phase, yeah. And that blew my mind. And as you can imagine, that just helped me with my confidence, and internally was just like, there's an opportunity, I can just take it and do what I need to do. As long as it's the right way, I know the coach is going to back me, rather than being afraid that my head might be torn apart because I've tried to flick past and it's gone wrong, you know, like.
Yeah.
So that my mentality had changed straight away, and that was awesome for me.
How many years were you there?
I was there just the 1 year.
Okay, mate. I reckon just even that simple mindset thing says a lot about the differences between Australian and New Zealand rugby. I think it's slowly shifting, but that really does explain a lot, doesn't it?
Yeah. I think you see it in the way the New Zealand teams play. You wonder why they play with so much flair, why number 1 to number 23 are all so skillful, and they try things on the footy field under the pressure because they probably know that their coaches back them to do it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I will never forget that I've been taught to, even if it was just the 1 year, that I was taught to fail and just continue to push the boundaries. And the longer you continue to push the boundaries, they will start coming off, you know, and good things will start happening on the footy field.
Mate, I'm trying to get Mikey Alatoa on the podcast. Great man. And I was talking to Kieran Reid about this, and Mikey got let go by the TARS, and then has gone to New Zealand, ended up at the Crusaders, and is, I think I've said it 3 or 4 times now, but is one of the very best props in the world. And man, I just love to know what happens in the doors there. Even like a Nemani Nadolo, a Pete Samu, they've gone over there and become world-class players, and they've kind of rejected here in a sense. So how did the Fijian stuff come about?
So it's the exact same time the whole Crusaders thing was happening. John McKee was watching me play for South.
Was he?
And he came to our games mostly for the Eastwood games, and and he kept in contact with me and sort of just shared with me his interest with getting me to join the squad, what my desires were in regard to the international game, and just thankfully they had also conversed with the Crusaders, because obviously when you go to New Zealand, they try their best to build their boys to play for New Zealand.
Yeah.
And I was just so thankful that both New Zealand, the NZRU Crusaders, and FIU were able to work something out in regard to me being able to go join the Crusaders, but also if I wanted to pledge my alliance with Fiji to go and do that also. So that's how it all worked out, yeah.
What was it like playing for Fiji for the first time?
It's really emotional, and it was unreal. Growing up in Sydney, obviously, wanting to be a rugby player, you aspire to become a Wallaby. And like I grew up, the first 8-9 years of my life was in Fiji. So at the time, I wanted to play sevens for Fiji. Like as a kid, that's always your heroes play sevens. That's all you know the sevens boys. Then transitioning and moving over to Sydney, I was surrounded by gold and the sky blue, the Waratahs. So growing up and then playing junior rugby in Sydney, I was aspiring to, if I could become a Wallaby, that'd probably be a dream come true sort of thing.
Yeah.
Fast forward to me singing the national anthem for Fiji, wearing the white jersey, and just my first game was in Fiji, just seeing family that I knew didn't have the means to travel and to watch me play while I was in Sydney. So to see this side of my family in Fiji in the crowd, it was just it blew the expectations that I had away. To be able to represent not just my family but my people also. Now looking back on it now, I wouldn't change a thing. It was an unreal experience, and every time I put that white jersey on, it's almost like I'm putting it on for the first time. That feeling never goes away.
How many tests have you played now?
Oh, I wouldn't know, man. 20 something, maybe low 30s.
So who was the first game against?
First game was against New Zealand Māori, and I started on the bench.
Yeah,
I started on the bench. That was played in Fiji, and then my first start was, I think it was the next game against Samoa.
Okay,
yeah.
So you went to you played at the 2015 World Cup and the 2019 World Cup. Is that right?
Yeah.
Mate, tell me about those experiences. Can you recall anything that sticks out in your mind?
Yeah, I've shared this with a few of the boys. My most nerve-wracking experience was the opening game for the 2015 World Cup. And I remember
Australia?
No, it's against England in England.
All right.
And we were opening the World Cup, and I remember vividly our captain Guerra. He comes in. He's just come back from doing the coin toss, and he tells me we're kicking off and we're going this way. And remember the strategy. I'm sort of nodding my head, and that moment, my heart just dropped, man. And so anyway, we run out, we sing the national anthem, we do our war cry, and I'm there holding the ball, and I can barely hold the ball still. There's about 80 odd thousand in the stands. It was loud. You could just feel the electricity, the energy. It was unreal. But that experience, like I shared with you before, going from not playing top club rugby with Tars and then representing Fiji in the World Cup, that World Cup made me fall in love with the game again. Like that whole experience was unreal. Then you fast forward to Japan, and that was just another massive experience. I've seen that you've spoken with some of the boys over in Japan, and I wouldn't be surprised if they're loving it there, because I loved it there. The culture's unbelievable. The people are great. I love Japanese food. It's just unreal.
I think COVID's messed it up a little bit. But what about Josh? Told me, cousin Josh, shout out to the great man who I love.
Yeah.
What was it like playing against Australia? I got to ask you.
That was special for me, and I hold a lot of respect for Czech, because he helped start my career. And when I first played the Wallabies for the first time, it was in the 2015 World Cup, and I think it was the second game, if I remember correctly, in our World Cup campaign. And that was special, playing against your mates. And fast forward to 2019 World Cup. Now some of my best mates are in there. It's always a great experience, because it's like I'm representing home, but playing against my home country as well.
Yeah.
And that's evident with when I look over to the other side, who are in those gold jerseys. Boys I've grown up with.
You knew a lot of them.
Guys I used to play against with. Yeah. So that whole experience is special whenever I get to play against the Wallabies, and always look forward to playing in that game.
Mate, I follow a few of the Fijian boys on Instagram, and it looks like whenever the boys come together, it's such a special experience, for lack of a better word. Like it means a lot for the boys to play for Fiji. What about some of the sacrifices that guys have to make? I mean, obviously, Fiji is a small country. You're probably not going to get the same salary to play for Fiji as you would to play for England. But it seems like a lot of guys still do it. Is there sacrifices that people make to play for Fiji?
Yeah, massively, especially boys who choose to play here in the Northern Hemisphere.
Yeah.
You're taking boys away from what they're used to in regard to seeing their families every day. And then now you lay on top of that the whole COVID situation. Boys here will have to go from seeing their families 1, 2, 3 years at a time before they're able to go home, because of the scheduling over here, linking that up with the international scheduling, and then being eligible to play within those tournaments. It's a massive sacrifice. You can only imagine guys who lived within small villages within Fiji, all of a sudden being taken out of that into a whole new situation, a culture that doesn't speak the language that they speak, or even the second chosen language, which is English, that they're comfortable with, and having to adapt with that. There's massive sacrifices that the boys have to make, and I think whenever you see us come together, they can just be themselves again. Like, here are boys who are separated around Europe, even down in New Zealand and in Australia, and all of a sudden you put us together, and it's home away from home.
Yeah.
Like, you're speaking your natural tongue. The jokes that you're throwing around, like everyone sort of knows and can relate to. So And then I think you see it on the field when we play together. We can just freely express ourselves in a way that I think that could be different within our separate clubs. It's really hard.
In your opinion, why are there so many good rugby players that come from Fiji?
I think it's the most natural thing that we know to do, and I think it's the one avenue, and you could testify to this. Naturally, Fijian boys are predominantly shy. We're introverted, and we keep to ourselves. But rugby is the one avenue where we can express ourselves freely without any judgment, and I think that empowers the boys and the girls so much. And it's for the entire time we hold the rugby ball or we're playing the game, we're not thinking about what others might think. We're just expressing and doing what we feel naturally.
Yeah,
I think that's why.
Okay, but that's a good reason, because everywhere you go in the world, there's always Fijian rugby players who are awesome, and often they play on the wing. So that was my next question. Why are there so many wingers that are Fijian? I mean, even Josh thinks he's a winger.
Yeah. I think it's because of the sevens game and the influence that holds back home, You come back from school. I mean, you wake up, you go to school, you're either playing touch or you're playing sevens. You come back from school and you're playing touch footy on the road or on some grass patch that you can find at home. So you would have seen videos even during the cyclones or after the cyclones that Fiji experienced. You see kids and people within their villages playing in the mud, and they're playing sevens or playing touch. And I think that develops a skill set where you just get the ball and you run. And I think, in my personal opinion, our boys make great wingers because they just have to get the ball and they run. They don't have to make too many decisions. They can just express themselves freely like they do at home.
I mean, it must be nice for you when you're playing to look outside you and see Nemani Nadolo on the wing.
Oh, mate.
I'm glad he's not on your team. Glad he's not on the opposition.
Not just him either. It's just the whole back line. There are times, honestly, at training where we'll do a unit session and I just sort of tilt my head to the side and really take in who's there.
Yeah.
And it is unreal. The amount of talent that is within our squad.
Mate, what about? I meant to ask you this. What about like preparation for a World Cup? So a lot of countries will get a big training block, obviously, because most Aussie players are based in Australia, same in New Zealand. What did you guys do for the 2 World Cups that you were involved in?
For the World Cup years, our preparations, our preparation's good. We have a similar block to every other national side. I think it may be 2 months worth of prep, worth of games as well. And
okay, so you're together for a long period of time. It's not just 2 weeks before the World Cup. You're thrown together, do a bit of training. No, so it's serious prep. Everyone's together for the whole time.
Yeah, but what I will say that sort of prep is not consistent yearly. So it will probably only happen in a World Cup year. I think the advantages that Tier 1 nations have is that they would have these camps, their preparations would be consistent in that way. Where they would have these time periods where a lot of, if not all of their players are playing within the national competition, and therefore they can hold camps when they would like.
Yeah,
and their players have they have the time, because of the way the scheduling is programmed, to make those camps.
That makes sense.
And obviously, you stack that over a few years. By the time you get to the World Cup year, you're well on the way.
Yeah, and you've done a huge body of work as opposed to someone that's only really trained on your own and trained together for 3 months. It completely makes sense. How are the European clubs when it comes to releasing guys for national duty?
First, I can only speak from my own experience. And like I said at the start, I've been really blessed with great clubs, and they hold space for my national duties with Fiji. So they leading into the national series, where for us it'd be in November and June, July. As that time period draws closer, the coaches would obviously come and speak to us, ask us how we're doing, and from there, organize a time frame where the period of time I'll be away, and then the time I need to return to begin training again with the club. So
Okay.
I really haven't had any dramas regarding that. But obviously there's stories that roam around regarding issues with that, and that's really unfortunate.
Mate, I mean, you can only go off what you've experienced yourself. Well, what about, so after you left the Crusaders, let's go back to some club footy. Where was your next club that you went to? Was it racing?
No, it was Rebels. I went to the Rebels for a year.
Okay. How did you find that experience?
Yeah, it was a challenging experience. Be honest, Benny. it was a challenging experience because we weren't doing very well that year. And I mean, in any team that you're not doing well in is a challenging experience. And I mean, the whole style of play that I had really enjoyed over in Christchurch had then changed again, coming back to Australia and playing in Melbourne. So it was during the time where the association were sort of iffing and ahhing in regard to who are going to release. Is it going to be the Force or is it going to be the Rebels? It was during that year.
Okay. So that would have piled a whole heap of bullshit on top of that as well. Yeah.
Yes. So we didn't want it to, but it did have a little bit of an influence in regard to the effect it had on the club.
Yeah.
But the boys within the club at the time, they were awesome. Just how the leadership had taken care of the whole situation, how they allowed us to focus on our rugby. It was a really challenging time, really challenging time.
Yeah, I talked to a few guys through that period who are kind of, not that they lost rugby, lost them after that, but they started to think about it in a different way, if that makes sense. What about from there? So did you go immediately to France after there?
So after that year, I had spoken to my management team, and I wanted to go back to New Zealand because I wanted to, enjoy it again, because I felt like I had a really challenging year. So then I went and played in the Mitre 10 Cup for North Harbour.
Okay.
And then from there I came to France, and there was a medical joker spot that was available in Bordeaux. So I spent about 5-6 months there before signing with racing.
So, and your whole France experience you've enjoyed?
Yeah, it's sort of been. So I enjoyed the whole North Harbour season. That was an unreal season. We did really well there, and then coming to Bordeaux, that was another challenging experience for me personally, because I was thrown into the team, and in my position, having to communicate in French and stuff, I just felt like I was drowning.
Yeah.
And rather than freely expressing myself and playing my natural game, I was caught up in trying to play the style that they wanted to play here, rather than add my sort of bit to the style that they wanted to play, and having that proactive mentality. So that experience, I mean, it was a great experience. It taught me how the French like to play. how they were wanting to play, and how I think, as more importantly, how they like to communicate. And in my position, if you learn how to communicate to the Frenchies in a respectful way, you get a long way with them. You'll go a long way with them. So yeah, that was a good experience.
I didn't ask you, what was it like living in Paris?
Yeah, it's living in Paris is an experience for itself. It's a quick lifestyle like Sydney is, but it's just it's such a cool city. It's so cool. Before this whole pandemic, you see like people are sitting outside in the restaurants. If it's a good day, even a winter's day, it could be 11 degrees in the morning, and people are sipping on their coffees or their white wines and just enjoying life. Like
in the morning.
Friends, in the morning, you're talking like 11 o'clock in the morning.
White wine.
And they're just white wine or their coffees, and they're just they're so chilled. Like life comes before work, and if they're not enjoying life, then what's the point? That's sort of their mentality. And Paris is just such a cool city.
I spent a very brief period playing rugby in Italy until I got fired. But we used to go to a captain's run on a Friday at about 11 in the morning, and I would always stop off in this coffee shop for a double espresso at about 10:30. One day I pulled up, and there's an ambulance that's just pulled in. All four of the workers get out. They're in the coffee shop, open a bottle of white prosecco, and start drinking it like 10:30 in the morning while they're at work.
Right, that's what it's like, man.
Can you imagine that in Sydney?
Oh, it's so different. It's just like, it's so cool, the differences within the cultures, and I mean the infrastructure itself. If you go around Paris, it's just unreal.
I like the European way of life. Like they know how to live.
Yeah.
I think we're a bit too work orientated in Sydney. I think if they've got the balance, probably a bit more right than we do. What about after footy, bro? Have you got any plans of what you're going to do next once you finish playing?
I've sort of just trying to have all these different tools placed in my back pocket, So I've done my coaching certificate. I just have to complete my second one.
Is that something that interests you?
Coaching? Yeah, it's some. Yeah, I've spoken to a few people about it, and ever since planting that seed within myself in regard to the coaching, it's weird now because sometimes I think, how would I do this as a coach while I'm training? You know what I mean? And it's just weird. It's just subconscious.
Yeah.
But I'm also trying to like note down the positives and the negatives. Like I'm also a guy that wants to have a family, spend a lot of time with them. And from my own experiences as a player, looking in within my coaches, coaching takes a lot of time. And I mean, if you do really well, you're needed to travel as well, which takes more time away. So I mean, I guess that's a negative if you're wanting to have a family and build a family in the home, I guess. I have that. I have also I've also wanted to do personal training as well. So I've got my certificates in that, and done business courses here and there.
Yeah.
So just really trying to, I guess, open a couple of doors, see if I'd like them while I'm playing, and so that by the time that I'm finished, I will know, and I will know for sure, and that transition will be smooth.
Do you think you'll stay over in Europe for a bit, just enjoy Tramage or whatever it's called?
Yeah, I'm not. That's another good reason to stay. I mean, a lot of players do it.
Yeah.
But long term, I mean, my club contract ends by the time the World Cup returns in 2023.
Okay.
So long term, I'm just thinking about 223 World Cup, and from there, I'll have to obviously jot down new goals and what I want to do. Stay in France, maybe go elsewhere, so on and so forth. But for right now, it's after this season, really, hopefully, helping this team get promoted to the top 14. And then returning back to racing next season for another 2 years into the World Cup.
So you're back at racing Metro next year?
Next year, yeah.
Okay, so you got 1 year at Perpignan and then you're back to racing until the World Cup.
Yeah.
Okay, cool, mate.
Yeah.
How good would winning a World Cup be for Fiji?
Oh, I think Fiji would celebrate for an entire year if we were to win a World Cup. But I mean, the belief that for the last few years, the belief that's been built within our squad has been unbelievable. And I think you can see boys in their respective teams, their club teams, really playing pivotal parts within their own teams and growing to become world-class players, not just in the back line, but within the pack as well. I think if we can just pull the right strings, bring together the right combinations and sort of luck's on our way as well, like we believe anything can happen as well. So
I reckon that would be unbelievable.
It would be unreal. It would be unreal.
I was at the Hong Kong Sevens in 2015 when Fiji won the tournament. It was the first time in a while, and the place was insane. And I could only imagine how much more insane that would be after a World Cup Sevens or the Olympic gold medal or something like that.
Yeah,
mate. I won't keep you too much longer, mate. This has been unreal. I have to ask, what was it like moving out of home for the first time? Did you struggle with that? Because I know you're very family orientated, and then all of a sudden you're sort of out into the world. Was that something that you found difficult?
To be honest, I really enjoyed it because I moved in. I knew Pete Samu from obviously Randwick days when he played for Randwick, and away from footy, I knew him and a couple of the Samoan boys that also played for Randwick. So I knew Pete, and he had been in New Zealand playing for Tasman for a few years by that time I joined the Crusaders, and we were at the Crusaders at the same time. So I moved in with him and one of the other boys, Davey. And that whole experience was just so much fun, you know. Like I embraced the whole idea of moving out. I mean, for the first time, my entire life, it was just me and mum, you know. So she's been a single mum the entire time I've been with her, obviously, and then it was myself, my brother, and her. So then to have, even though it was a drastic change, it was a good change for me. So I'm living a life where I go to training and I'm coming home with friends.
Yeah.
Go to training with the same mates, and we're spending our entire lives together. It was such a good experience, man. And obviously, like I said before, that whole crew at the Crusaders is so close. And what you see on the field mirrors the relationships they have off it. I think that's why they do well.
Yeah.
Because they genuinely love each other. So that whole experience was so smooth for me. I can only imagine. Sorry, bro. I can just only imagine boys who have to go directly if it's their first experience. And a lot of the Fijian boys are like this, going straight from their homes over here to the Northern Hemisphere. So like you're literally going to the other side of the world, and that's your first experience of moving away from home. That would be really tough, I reckon.
Particularly if it was in like a lower level French club that didn't really look after guys, and not like a racing who turn up and do your washing.
Exactly.
There was like a TV movie that they made about this Fijian kid that played like not Pro D2, like Fed 2 or something like that. Sending all his money home. It looked pretty tough. Mate, a couple more questions and I'll leave you alone, mate. This has been awesome.
Yeah.
You've always had such a positive attitude. Like even just listening to you now, like, through your experiences of like the Tars, the Rebels, the Crusaders, I mean, obviously good experiences, but there were some downsides as well. But you're only talking about the positive side of it. Have you always had that, or is that something that you've sort of worked on as you've gotten older?
It's,
quite a deep question.
yeah, no, it's good. No, it's honestly, it's honestly because of my family, and a lot had to do with it. A lot had to do with the way my mum raised me and our faith as well, which got me through it. She's the sort of she's a woman that has experienced a lot within her life, respectively, and through her experiences, I think she was able to raise two boys the best that she could because of the past that she had. And I think I'm so thankful for that. And I didn't really understand that until obviously I grew up and sort of understood that later. And despite her downfalls or her challenges, she was able to still come through for the two of us. And I think she shared that with myself and Milan.
Yeah.
And I mean, the challenges that I faced personally, minuscule compared to the challenges that she faced as a young woman getting into adulthood. So yeah, I think that's been implanted within me ever since I grew up. And obviously there were times where I wasn't all positive, you know, and there were dark times in certain points in my life, but that'd be credit to the way my mum brought us up and the way our family brought us up.
Mate, that's awesome. That's awesome. One more question, my friend. What advice would you give 18-year-old Ben Volavola? If any.
Just to be yourself, you know. Don't try to mimic or be anyone else. Believe that you have what it takes, and that your hard work will pay off. Because I think trying to be someone else or mimic someone else is where you get into trouble. Understand and know that you're unique in your way, and that your hard work will pay off.
Mate, could be the best advice you could give anyone. What was that saying I got told the other day? In a world where everyone's trying to be something else, the only real way to stand out is to be yourself, because you're the only
100%.
And it took me till I was 33 to learn that. So you're way ahead of me, my friend. Actually, I lied to you. One last question. Joshua Nogueira. Let's throw him under the bus just a little bit. Any good Josh stories you could share with me?
Oh, bro.
I mean, he can't be as perfect as he seems.
Bro, that'd be over a few beers, I reckon, with you, bro. I don't know if it'd be appropriate. I don't know if it'd be appropriate to share them now, man. We've had. I grew up with Josh. I mean, Josh has. He's got 5 brothers. So growing up in Fiji, like I said before, my brother and I, including them, there's 7 boys, and a lot of the time, 7 boys in one household, was so much fun for us as kids. But I can only imagine was just draining for his mum, my auntie, and his dad, my uncle, and obviously when mum had to look after us, would have been so draining. But man, those childhood memories I think just built the foundation to why I'm really grateful for what I have now. And Josh is obviously paving his own way now in Sydney, and we're just so thankful that he's there now. And yeah, those stories, I reckon, bro, when I get to Sydney, I'll be sharing with you.
Oh, mate, I love that guy. He's such a good bloke. Honestly, he's helped me out of some stuff lately, and you know, I don't have a bad word to say about him, but I was hoping that you would.
No, he's a good man. He's a good man, but he's had some faults.
Nice way to say it, mate. This is awesome. Honestly, the best part of doing this podcast is it's a good excuse to talk to my old friends all over the world. So, thank you so much, man.
No worries, bro. Thank you, man.
I'm very happy for you. And how well you going? It's awesome.
Yeah, thank you, brother. Thank you, bro. And so good that you're starting to. I mean, you've got connections to get in touch with a lot of the boys now playing around the world. So I hope
mate,
this takes off and does really well.
Thank you, mate. Look, worst case scenario, I just talked to you for an hour and it was pretty fun. So, we've actually got a 10-year reunion. So you were part of the second grade grand final win?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was 10-year reunion at the end of the year. So,
that would be unreal.
I know.
I think Rowan's in Sydney now, is he?
Yeah, he's playing for East, the fucker. So I think they're paying him pretty nice. I think they're paying him pretty nicely. So hopefully, anyway. But mate, it feels like yesterday. So when was that? That was 2011. And that goal you kicked at Sydney Uni, I still remember where I was standing on the ground that day, thinking there's no way he's kicking this goal because I don't think he'd hit one all day. And I've gone, there's no way. And then you've nailed it. I just remember all the lunatics running on.
Oh man, it was when he called the penalty. I just looked at the boys and they just looked spent. And I think Barry at the time was yelling to go for touch.
Yeah.
And I was just like, man, I don't know because the boys are. So I just sort of pointed to the goalpost, knowing that I had never kicked that far before. Oh, yeah. But when I went over, man, the feeling to beat Sydney Uni for the first time at Sydney Uni and just the occasion and everything was unreal.
And I remember exactly where I was standing. I was on the other side of the field at the old ground, and I'd played 80 minutes, which is very rare for me. And I've looked and I'm going, there is no way in fuck he's kicking this. There's no way. And then when you kicked it and everyone ran over to you, I just stood there because I had nothing left. I just stood there and soaked it all in. And, I know you've got a lot of good memories in your rugby career, but that is up there for me, mate. That was as good as anything I've had in rugby.
It's still one of my most cherished rugby memories. Just like the occasion, going into that semi-final as well. I don't think anyone backed our club to get into the final, because we're playing Sydney Uni at Sydney Uni. It's the semi-final game. There'd been in 9 or 10 grand finals in a row or something before that. So the way it happened and just the crew that we had at the time was just unreal.
Mate, it was a special time. I think I enjoyed it at the time, but as you get older, you look back and you go, I wish I'd enjoyed that even more, if that makes sense, because that was a special team.
Oh, exactly the same, bro. Oh, exactly the same.
Mate, some of the old lunatics, there's not one person from that team apart from you and Rowie and still playing, I think.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Bona's retired. Nearly everyone's retired. I think Steve. Wow. Oh no, Mitch is still playing.
Yeah,
it feels like yesterday, but it also feels like another lifetime ago.
Yeah, I know. Like sometimes those little videos that the club puts up on their page will pop up, and I'm like, man, this just feels like yesterday. Just like you said, It
does. It's just a snap of. I remember. So I've just retired. I'm coaching second grade this year, but
all right, yeah.
Blink of an eye, mate, and I remember playing my first grade game, and then that game, and then the semi-final the year after, and then literally a blink of an eye. It just goes so fast.
Just flies, yeah, just flies.
Mate, this is awesome. This is awesome, mate. If you ever get back to Sydney or I get over to France, the beers are on me, definitely.
Oh, bro, looking forward to that for sure, man. Especially if I come back home, I'll let you know I'm home.
Have you been vaccinated yet?
I actually got my first one last week.
How'd you feel?
Yeah, pretty just normal.
Okay.
Didn't feel any symptoms at all. It was good.
I've heard just as many people say they felt good as they felt shit after. So
yeah. I've heard so many stories where they've felt like they've had COVID after the vaccination, and some weird stories. Yeah.
Really? as well.
Yeah, just like feeling weak and feverish. But all the ones that the players are having, apparently, the ones that we're having are really good. I don't know the differences exactly, but apparently the ones that we're having, no one's experiencing anything.
Okay, so you just don't do what you got to do, I guess, until the world goes back to normal, man. Yeah. I'll let you go, brother. Great to talk, mate. This was awesome.
Yeah, thank you, brother. It was awesome to see you. Awesome to chat, too, man. We'll all the best, soon. Brother.
Thank you, mate. You too.
See you, bro.
Catch you, bro. Bye.
Bye.